Thank you for joining us this evening. It's good to see so many people here. So this is Auckland Power BI and Analytics User Group, which we are going to call it Fabrics Group after this. How many of you are new, first timers? Okay, that's like half of the room. Thank you. Welcome. And those of you who are coming back again, welcome. It is great to see you. We have not had this meetup, I think, for 3-4 months at least, from February, something like that. We've been busy with Power BI Summit and other things as well. So good to see you here. Who we are actually, this slide is a little old, but we are running this meetup. It's a free training type of event and socializing as well that you can join. We run it usually the last Wednesday of every month. That is what we're supposed to do, but we haven't done it for a few months. So we are going to get back on track. So we'll do this again once every month. Now I think we have more than 3,000 members in the meetup, which is great. And organizers of this are David here, Indira back there, Leila, and me. Okay, so if you have any questions about this type of meetup and anything like that, find any of us. We'll be more than happy to talk with you about it. What is the focus of this group? We usually talk about data analytics technologies in Microsoft, like Power BI, Synapse, Data Factory, things like that. We have done a lot of Power BI sessions recently because that was the focus of Microsoft. But now with the Fabric coming, so it is going to change slightly on the Fabric side, but we will still have a lot of Power BI sessions. Our sessions are like in variety of levels. Sometimes it is like 100 level, totally beginner. Sometimes it is advanced. For today, for example, we have sessions that are like combined, a little bit intro, a little bit advanced as well. These are not formal sessions, so feel free to ask questions anytime you have from a speaker, unless the speaker says that ask the question at the end. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and we run some of the conferences, like free conferences or the other regarding the advanced analytics. So just we definitely announced it in the Power BI meetup. So just follow us there so to make sure that you catch all of the news.
And make sure your phone is silent.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Not like me. So yeah, if you join our meetup, you'll get notified about all our events. That's pretty much it. Okay, now what is the agenda for today? So we are going to do first housekeeping. Oh yeah, good point. Thank you. I have a slide about housekeeping. Oh yeah. Okay. If you are first time here at Microsoft, the doors get locked, I think, after 5 doors and 5:30, the elevators as well. If you want to go to restrooms, you need a key, I think. Yes. So, or yeah, Indira have one of those keys. So we don't have many of those keys. If you want to go to the restroom, Indira and Leila probably would be around that area in the lobby. So just make sure that someone knows you are in the restroom. We don't want you to lock out over there. Then you have to walk all the way down and then call us back to get you up here. The fire exit door is this. Yeah, this right. Then it goes all the way down. Assembly point is at Sofitel.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's pretty much it, right? Okay, cool. So the agenda for today, we'll do a very quick intro of Fabric. I will be doing that. Then we have 3 speakers, each doing a short talk. 2 of them are remote. They are on the Teams already. One of them is in Tauranga, the other one Wellington, and the last one is in person here, Shifali. She's already preparing some of the last-minute preparation. Cool. How many of you heard about Power BI? Right. Okay. Cool. How many of you are using Power BI already? Okay, almost half of the room. Okay, so I'm going to do that quick Microsoft Fabric introduction. How many of you heard about Fabric? That is good. Great. Okay, so what is Microsoft Fabric and why it's such a big deal you hear about it around? So Microsoft Fabric announced like 3 weeks, was built 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, something like that, right? Announced that Microsoft Build is a Microsoft developer conference, usually runs in Seattle every year. So what happened is that actually Microsoft Power BI team, they invested something like 2 years. A lot of people from Power BI team worked on a secret project for about 2 years, and then they announced it at Build. That secret project is Microsoft Fabric, right? Now, why do we have something called Microsoft Fabric? So first thing about that is that if you are in data analytics space, the complexity is quite high, right? Can you name some of the tools? Let's just focus on Microsoft area. Some of the tools in Microsoft area you use when you are in data analytics space. What tools or services do you use? Power Apps, not much in data analytics, probably more Power BI, but yeah, we'll get that, yeah. What else? Synapse. Data Factory, Synapse. What else? Data Lake, yeah.
Studio.
Databricks. This photo that you see, I took it from Microsoft Azure portal, and I just selected the analytics category, and we have like this. Now, in data analytics space, you just don't do analytics. You also focus on some database area and on machine learning. Machine learning, right? So if you count all of that, it is something like about 35 different tools and services that, as someone in the analytics space, you should have heard about it. You should have had some experience about it. You should at least know what they are, right? It's quite a lot of things if you want to do data analytics to know about all of these. And this is only in Microsoft space. If you consider other vendors, it would be like heaps of that. So Microsoft thought that, well, that is quite complex. Each of these have their own licensing plan as well. Like Synapse itself, if you go and read licensing plan for Synapse, it is probably over 3 pages of like how it works, and you wouldn't at the end realize how this works. So the idea for bringing Fabric was simplicity, to make it simpler. Like right now, if you want to go and build a end-to-end solution, you probably go and use a little bit of Azure Synapse, which for building that, you have to go to Azure portal. Then you need to also go and build a Power BI, which for that you build a Power BI desktop solution, publish it to Power BI portal. And then you might do some ETL in Data Factory, which again, you have to go back to Azure portal to do that. So it's a lot of different places. Each of those has their own licensing. So Microsoft Fabric makes it all simpler. It brings everything in one place, much easier to build, and it makes it also simpler in the licensing. So the idea is that this is like an umbrella of 3 main products, the Power BI, Synapse, and Data Factory combined into one called Microsoft Fabric, but not just that, it also includes a few other things as well. With that, you get some governance around it using Microsoft Purview. You get the data stored in what we used to call data lake before, but now it is called One Lake. And we have different workloads in this end-to-end solution. So it's like an end-to-end solution. Why is it not playing again? I'll just go back again. Okay, so it is an end-to-end analytics solution, software as a service by Microsoft. The simplicity of that is that you get all of these in one environment. One licensing would cover pretty much all of these, right? And you don't have to go to different places to build different parts of solutions, right? That is the big thing about it. What is in the box? So you get the storage One Lake, which is kind of the next generation of what we had in Data Lake, Azure Data Lake. Why they call it One Lake? Like the concept of data lake is that you have a place that you store all your structured data and unstructured data, right? But then when you really go and see what organizations are doing, each department has their own data lake storage, right? Like probably each city or each branch of company also has their own data lake. Like the Wellington branch is using this data lake storage, the Auckland branch is using this data lake storage. So you get a lot of different places that this data lake is. So that data lake is not really the single source of truth. And the idea about One Lake is that we would have one data lake, right? Only one, not more than that. And that is Microsoft's secret sauce behind it that manages it. Even if you are working in a company that has tenants across different countries, you will still get one lake across all of these. The data integration component of that is Data Factory, which uses the Azure Data Factory components we had before, such as data pipelines, plus data flow. Data flow is like Microsoft Power Query on cloud that you can run. Now the Data Factory supports both of these. You can run this as your ETL engine. The Synapse is used for a lot of different workloads here. With the Synapse, you can build your data warehouse. With the Synapse, you can also do some data engineering aspects of it. Data engineering things such as like data wrangling, understanding what the data is, doing data exploration. The data warehousing part is like the engine that supports big scale data analysis. And then real-time analytics using Synapse as well. Now, the BI component of this is Power BI, of course, which you already know about it. There is a new tool or service as part of this called Data Activator. Data Activator is something like Power Automate. Have you heard of Power Automate? Power Automate, but more action-based based on the data points. In Power Automate, you can do actions such as if this happened, do this, right? But with Data Activator, you can do that on the data points itself. If my KPI value goes above this, go and do this. If my KPI value goes below this. So it's more integrated with the rest of these components. And finally, Purview is providing the full governance around all of these. So of course, it's a big thing. I don't want to spend so much time to talk about it. If you are interested to talk about it, come and talk with me afterwards. It's a big area. There are Microsoft documentations about it. So the good thing is that with the announcement, the Microsoft documentation is also released. So you can go and read those Microsoft documentations about it. From Power BI point of view, what is different? Some of the licensing parts of Fabric can help your Power BI solutions. That is a good thing. Like if you are on a Power BI premium license at the moment, you will have Fabric enabled in your workspace, which is a big thing. Like if you have a P1, P2, P3 in your environment, then you can go and use Fabric right away. I mean, as soon as it's become generally available, of course. If you are using Power BI embedded, there might be cheaper options for you. Instead of using EM1, EM2, EM3, now you can use the F SKU capacities. I didn't bring all of those slides because it would be like an hour-long type of presentation. Okay, that's pretty much me on this side. Now, is there any questions on this? If not, we'll ask the next one to present. Yes.
Is done activated? It's almost like goals as well. So you had goals, KPIs.
You can use goals in the Data Activator, but you can use a lot of other things as well. Like, for example, in the Data Activator, you can say if that goal that I defined in Power BI becomes this or that, do that kind of things, right? But you can also do other things around it. For example, you can use a measure in Power BI that probably you haven't even used in the goal. And then in Data Activator, monitor that measure. If this measure value goes something like this or that, I want to do this, right? And that is not only for the Power BI side, everywhere in this whole platform. Like if you have your data warehouse, a field in that data warehouse, a value in that field changes, or your data pipeline that runs and do something like that, that also have a change in it. So everywhere across these, you have this Data Activator as a component that watches over and returns something. I think Data Activator is not yet released. It is like private preview at the moment. It would be public preview probably sometime soon. But yeah, very exciting. If you knew Will Thompson, how many of you knew Will Thompson? Yeah, if you watched some of the Microsoft Power BI, those that are in Microsoft website itself, some of the videos of Learn Power BI in Microsoft, the guy who talks and has an English accent. That guy is called Bill Thompson. He was in the Power BI team. He was building the Power BI desktop. And then he moved to Data Activator, and he was the head of that team building that tool. So it's really interesting. Any other questions?
Reza, I've got a
cost behind the real-time.
The licensing of the whole thing is quite simple. So you get capacity-based licensing that covers all of these. The only additional thing in that is the storage. So storage is not included in that. So let's say when I purchase a capacity, whatever dollar amount, I can use all of these, but then these would have some space consumed. The storage is based on how much, like 2 cents per gigabyte, something like that. I don't know exact number, but that is the only additional. So no, you don't pay for additional real-time features. It would be all part of those capacity.
So hey everyone, my name is Jackson. So I'm based in Tauranga, the sunny city. So I'm a surfer. I also really passionate about Power BI. I love watching Reza videos. And today, my main sharing point is how to get Power BI metadata. I will share my journey with you, like how I get the metadata using Power BI Admin API. So the agenda for the presentation. What is Admin API? So if you ask ChatGPT will answer you really well. So permission needed. What kind of permission that we needed to perform the Admin API call? I think that's the most challenging part for most of the organization, because you need at least a Power BI administrator role, or preferably the global admin roles to do the admin API call. So if you can't get the global admin, so you have to ask your global admin to set up a service principal for you. Yeah. And then the agenda for next one is I would demo my dashboard and some of the code that I used to get the Power Admin API. Cool. So background, why do we want this? It's because when organization getting big, they got millions of workspaces and objects in the Power BI services. So we want to visualize it in a nicer way. At the same time, not paying any money for the purview. Yeah. But how? How do we do it? We call the admin API and then use the admin API to get the data from Power BI services and then build a data model. Cool. So Power BI REST API, which also the admin API, are web services that can work with Power BI services objects such as workspaces, data sets, data flows. So data flows basically like Power Query on the cloud and reports. Cool. Yeah. So for this method to work, we need to set up a service principal. So what is a service principal in human language? Is a privileged account that you can use to authenticate things. So currently I set up a mock tenant. This is called QQ Garage. It's not real, so don't search it up. Yeah. So for this PBI admin demo 2 is the one that I use. So got API permission. And after you set up service principal, remember do not grant the admin consent for this tenant after the guidance for the Microsoft documentation. So all the permission we need is Power BI services and all this read and one of the write permission. Yeah. So I attached it a link here that can lead you right to the Microsoft document that you can learn. And the second one, what is a Power BI administrator? Is a human that can manage Power BI. So the challenges I've been facing in 2023 using the MN API core is like Microsoft been updating their O4 protocol. So a lot of things need to be MFA now. And I think this is a good trend. Yeah. So the way I used it, I use a client ID and client secrets in Postman. So Postman is a free website that you can visualize your API call. I have summarized the 4 connection methods to get the metadata. The first one, Reza already mentioned, we can use the admin API website. There's a try it function. So in the try it function, you authenticate with your organizational account. And after you log in, you will see an access token. You can use that access token to get in. And the second method, which is the main method I want to demo today, called the Postman method. So we need to choose the grant type equal client credentials. Yeah. And then the third one is the old one, PowerShell script, and it's a Python script. So these 2 methods are quite like the old way. Yeah. Cool. So after we get the metadata, we would like to build a data model based on the objects that we get from them, right? And then basically we get the workspaces. It's called group in the MN API. And then we got the data sets, we got the reports, we get the data flows, and then we get the workspace catalog, basically joins them together. But there's an exception called activities. So activity is really hard to get. Like, to be honest with you guys, I couldn't figure out how to get activities. So we will skip that part. Cool. So a demo. So this demo is based on this lovely Power BI tips website. So if you click on the link, you can get to the YouTube video that teach you the whole thing. Yeah. Cool. So now we finally get into demo. First step, what we're trying to do is call the MN API, and then second step to retrieve a refreshable token, and then using this token to authenticate to continue our metadata. Yeah, will make sense pretty soon. Yeah, sorry. Cool. So here's the Postman page that I've been opening. The most important thing is this link. So this link is made up of login microsoftonline.com, and then this is the application ID, which is the where is it? Sorry. Yeah, somewhere in the application ID here. So yeah, so and then 042 and then v2.0/token. So and then you need to set up the body exactly like this. So using grant type, client credential, the scope would be analysis.window.net Power BI API.default. This is not optional, sorry. I think this is necessary. And then the client ID would be your application client ID. The client secret would be the kind of like the password of the application. So you can test it in Postman. You send it. And then this is the access token that we actually want. It's always start with EY. Yeah. Cool. So after you tested this, you would go on to your Power Query editor, which is here. So in here, you can see I set up a lot of different subset of the tables, but the more important thing is this one called get refresh token. So what this do is basically imitating the API call and then to get the access token. I put my code in here, so for people need future references, you can use the code here. Yeah. So basically make up of a URL and then body and headers option. Yeah, imitating the API call. Yeah. And the second step, you would notice that after you get the refresh token, you would try to call the most basics, call the get groups as admin API call. So we'll show you an example of the menu call. You use a relative path to imitate the URL, and then in the headers authorization bearer. So remember, there's always a space between the access token and the bearer. So this is the access token. Yeah. So after we kind of get the skeleton of this script, which is in here, I also will share this code with you. So the most important part is only the top 5 lines here. The other stuff is just like transformation step. Yeah. And then the second step, you would try to call the refresh token, but you will find it doesn't work. It's because we can't merge results from 2 web queries for the access token. But what we can do, we could hide the web query inside a function. So how do we do that? How do we hide a web query inside a function? So we basically just do a bracket and then equal and then do a, this is basically telling the Power Query that this is a function. So after you get a function, you can swap that token part with this reference to reference the functions. And after you swap it, you will get a live data set here, which is like the QQ Garage workspaces. Yeah. So yes, but there's one thing need to be careful. So don't make too many requests at the same time. If you make too many requests at the same time inside an hour, it will exceed the API call, and then I think Microsoft will block you. Yeah. So this is the data model that in my Power BI model. So you can see always start with get group as admin, and then you just get different objects. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So I'll show you the final set of the report. So the final of the report is look similar like this. So you just get workspaces, dashboard, data set, data sources, yeah, and then data flows. Yeah. So I know in the Fabrics they got a new workspace called admin monitoring workspaces, but in the admin monitoring workspaces they focus more on like activity. So I think this admin view can really good complementing the purview hub. Yeah, cool. This is my presentation, and I will try to send you the slides later on. Yeah, any questions?
Wonderful, thank you. Great. Question?
Quick question from a great presentation. Just checking in for data sources that you can query using the APIs.
Yeah.
Can you check what database view has been added?
Database views.
or like table or view?
I think no, you can't get the views. Yeah. So what we get in here is basically the Power BI services objects. Yeah. So if it's on the admin API core, we can get it, but if it's not on it, then we can't. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you go to admin API, so you find a full list of what you can do with this API. Yeah, sorry, it's slow. Yeah, so the answer is no, like we can't get the table views from the SQL database by calling the admin API.
Thank you. There's another question.
Yeah, I noticed you had to embed the client ID and secret. What's the best practice in handling this so that it's not just in raw text? Is there a way to?
Yeah. So in Postman, you can parameterize the whole thing.
Yep.
Parameterize the whole thing. Like for example, this one you can use it as a parameters rather than the whole secret. So the reason that I'm just putting in text is because like it's convenient for me. Yeah, but for the organizational user, I would strongly recommend to make it as the parameters. Yeah.
In your Power BI core.
Sorry, what?
In your Power BI query.
Yeah.
Can you do the parameter as well? With the client ID and secret.
Yeah, I think you can call it as a function. So like, but yeah, you can also parameterize the whole thing. Yeah, by adding parameters in here, I think new parameters. Yeah. For example, like links, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. One more question. Yeah. Got it. And
Yeah, I think I might have misunderstood the why for this. But I think I might have in when you mentioned that there's a new admin workspace that's focused on activity. So you're saying there's still a need for this for monitoring your objects?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think if it's for big organizations, they got a lot of objects, so it's really hard to go through it one by one on the Power BI services portals. Like if you got like more than 100 workspaces, it would get quite daunting to look through it one by one. So that's why we want to build admin views.
thank you.
Question for you, Reza. Just,
Yeah.
do you see something like that coming out of the box? So yes,
I think Power BI team is working on something like that.
yeah, but
I don't know the time. Sorry about this. Yeah, I tried to find exploits. Okay. So thanks Jackson for presentation. Okay, cool. That was a great presentation. Let's go to next.
Good evening, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, please talk again.
Am I audible? Cool, awesome. So, right, let me share my screen. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'm Tarun Acharya, and I'm taking this opportunity to present, how would you do, DAX coding with in Power BI, especially using ChatGPT, and especially for people who are new to Power BI, DAX can sometimes be a bit challenging for them. So how can you use ChatGPT to at least come up with some templates and save that much of time in coding? Now, um, the agenda for today is going to be, I'll quickly run through, I'll quickly introduce myself. We'll go through what ChatGPT is all about at a 30,000 feet view. Some demos on how am I able to produce some DAX codes using ChatGPT, and what are the other AI tools in the market that you consider along with ChatGPT. So as I've said, I'm Tarun Acharya. I'm currently working with Datacom as a senior data consultant. I've been working there for the past 2 years. Before that, I've worked with Theta and also with Spark New Zealand in a similar capacity. And coming to what is ChatGPT. So GPT basically stands for Generative Per Training Transformer, and ChatGPT is a natural language processing tool, which is basically driven by AI technology that allows you to have human-like conversation with a chatbot. And personally, when I'm using words like please and sorry, when I'm chatting with the chatbot here, some of us are doing the same because it does feel like you're talking to a human being. And the language model can basically answer your questions and assist you with tasks such as composing emails or essays, or in our case coding with wide variety of languages. And this is basically an offering from OpenAI, who is the developer of this particular tool. Now, is this ChatGPT broadly stands under generative AI, and they also have other tools on the offering, which is one of them is DALL-E, which is an AI art generator. So you can just type in some keywords and it's going to actually generate some art for you, or generate some pictures for you, which might be useful for digital marketers. And it also offers OpenAI also offers API integration, so that it can integrate into your applications or business, which is I'll be surprised if that doesn't happen in future, not just with ChatGPT, but with other AI generative AI tools in the market. So coming to the next portion is how can ChatGPT help with DAX coding? As I said, what I think what separates a good Power BI developer from a great is their ability to come up with to write DAX code basically, and especially people who are new to Power BI, DAX can sometimes be a little intimidating, and with and like as a data consultant, I can say that every, and not just with DAX, but as a data consultant, I'm working with a lot of different tools that are available in the market now. I may be expert on a couple of them, but not all of them. But when I'm delivering to the customers, I have to build a solution which is production grade and robust and doesn't break. So what that means for me, it means is that I have to do a lot of online research, compile the solution, and then build the solution for the client and test it. But with tools like ChatGPT, it is doing all that for me within just one interface. I don't have to go to 10 different websites to basically compile the information that I'm really after. I'm pretty sure most of you have been there, where you do need to go to a lot of different forums to find the answer for a particular question in a particular scenario, especially when you can do the same thing in a lot of different ways, right? So yeah, with my experience so far, I can see that ChatGPT is able to produce reasonably accurate DAX templates for a lot of different scenarios, and it is going to only get better with time and with more data. You can also use it to debug some of the problems or some of the error messages that you get when you're building your DAX codes. You can also produce it can also tell you detailed steps on how to do certain thing in Power BI, and in some cases, for instance, if you are rebuilding an Excel report in Power BI, it can even help you convert some Excel formulas to DAX. So let's get into some demos really. Right. So I have Okay, I mean, let's actually start with a calendar function. So this is ChatGPT interface that you see over here. I'm telling, can you show me DAX code for a calendar table in Power BI? Right. So cool. So over here, obviously, it has given the code over here. And over here it has mentioned that, I need to reference to the appropriate date column, from my Power BI tables. And it is actually telling me, what each of the functions are doing over here, which is great actually for, anybody who is a beginner over here. And if I just tweak this a bit, before I do that, I'll just show you this, very simple Power BI report, nothing fancy, as a part of preparations for this. I've got orders table over here with the dates. I've got a table that is hosting all my measures that I created manually, and there are also measures that I actually created in ChatGPT, and I was using it for testing, and the results have not been disappointing. So let's actually make it a bit more funky, where I say, I'm just trying to give it a bit more details. I'm saying I have a table called orders table, and in there is a date column called order date. Can you show me a DAX code based on this information to write a calendar table in more details? So again, guys, you will see that in this scenario, it was able to place, mention my table and the date column appropriately, and which pretty much means, there's a good chance that if I copy paste this code as it is, I probably wouldn't have to make any change in my Power BI model. And at the same time, it is also giving some explanation around each steps, or what each of these columns mean, or what sort of functions it is actually trying to use within Power BI. So if I just copy this code as it is, I go back to my report, and in modeling, let's say I create a new table, and right. So yeah, I mean, it seems all right. So ChatGPT calendar demo, if I just go to my data table, I've got what I need over here. And for the sake of complexity, let's actually make it a little more interesting. So can you add column to previous reply to flag Saturday and Sunday? Like basically, I just want him to mark the holiday columns really. So that's my updated code, where you can see that ChatGPT has added this particular line over here, which is catering to my need. And this was basically tested in one of these formulas. So as you can see, I mean, I basically use that piece of code over here, and a bit of testing tells me that the formula has actually worked for me. In a similar way, if I just ask, can you give me a DAX formula for a year-to-date calculations for a measure called total sales, which is already there in my model. I've already created that. So let's see how it responds. So again, guys, it is able to straight away give you a code and the explanation for that code. And if I modify this further, what I'm asking ChatGPT is, can you give me a DAX calculation for the last 4 weeks calculation of measures called total sales? Right. So over here it has taken care of the last 4 weeks by this particular line, and I mean I can actually change it. Just like as I said, it presents a more a human-like communication interface. So I say, can you this to last 15 weeks. So if I scroll back, I'm pretty sure it must have made those modifications to the code. Similarly, if I can actually rephrase my question and try to give it a bit more details where in certain cases, if I do not provide the table name or the column names, I'll have to change that when I'm updating my report. But this is a sample of a query where I'm saying, I have a table called orders table. And in that table, I've got a column called order date. I also have a measure called total sales. Can you give me a DAX code to calculate the year to date or total sales? Right. So overall, I mean, there are a lot of such, different examples that I've tried onto my report, and as you can see, in this particular section, I've just tried to save them under this particular table, Chat GPT measures, and these are some of the samples that I have, tried with Chat GPT, trying to exclude weekends, going back, number of weeks, just trying to calculate if it actually calculated the number of weeks correctly or not, and so on and so forth, and even I've seen that if you just give it some unformatted a DAX code, it is able to even format that and give you an output that you can use in your Power BI reporting for readability. Other than this, I can throw questions like, can you explain me in a simple way? Right. So with questions like these, especially for beginners, it can be helpful for them to just interact with this interface and maybe get different results, based upon the questions they ask, because you can always change a question to get a slightly different output. And there is also this button which says regenerate a response. I'm not exactly sure what it does, in the sense, will it give you a separate output, or does it have an alternative solution? For the calendar functions, I was also able to ask it to just add US public holidays. It did not add the whole list, but it was able to find some generic ones, like for the New Year, for Christmas, and a couple of other holidays. And it had a placeholder with commented section where it said, you can add more custom dates if you like. So overall, especially for beginners or even for medium developers, I think this definitely gives you a good I would say an assistant, to build your DAX queries, get a better understanding of DAX queries, and use that in your reporting. Also, like I think ChatGPT is still quite new, or for that instance, even generative AI is a relatively newer concept. So before, although the functions that this tool is generating overall seems to be okay, I still just double check it just to make sure everything is all right, and it's not going to break something else within my report. And I think with time, with more data, and with more research, it's just going to get better, and overall trust factor is just going to improve. So as you've said, as you've seen, OpenAI is providing an API interface. So we are not. I don't think we are too far away from a future where this is going to be very heavily integrated with whatever tools we work in, including Power BI. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to make our lives that much more easier. And there could be a lot of use cases. I mean, for instance, even peer reviewing what we have done. For instance, if we just look at what are the other players available in the market, one of them is Right Sonic. There is Bard by Google. There is Copilot by GitHub, and there is Bing AI. Out of these, I would be especially interested in Bard by Google and Copilot by GitHub, mainly because, I mean, personally, I think they have a lot of data. GitHub, especially, they deal with version control. They deal with tons of code that people save onto these platforms on a daily basis. So it's just a matter of time that Chat GPT and all these different tools that you see out there, they will be able to be of real help when we start coding in general. Let me know your thoughts. If you guys have ever used ChatGPT, or if you had an opportunity to use any of these other AI tools, let me know how your experience was like. You can share that on the Radacat forum, and I think I'll add my presentation here. So thanks for hearing me out, and I really thank Reza and Indira for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, guys.
Question.
Hey, Taryn. So sorry, I got a question for you. So have you tried to use GPT-4 compared to 3.5? How different does it make? Like, how much difference does it make for the code improvement?
Oh yeah. I'm yeah. Is Mike? Yeah. Click is Mike. And the bottom is picture on the left. Click is Mike.
Oh, I was muted. Okay. Yeah, guys, can you still see my screen okay? Or
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like I'm sharing from my side.
Now we see it.
Okay, cool. So I just want to run you through this particular question. I asked him, can you tell me about some of the latest updates to Power BI? And it says, as an AI language model, my knowledge is based upon information available until this particular date. So you can, whenever you are, researching something in ChatGPT or asking some questions to ChatGPT, in general, I think it's better to keep this thing in mind. But overall, I think it does more than a decent job in building some DAX templates or just building some DAX queries. Really, there were instances where I came across some errors, like the code that I was given, I pasted that onto Power BI. There was an error message. I copied that error message, and give it as a feedback saying, hey, look, I get this particular problem, and that says, oh, I'm sorry, I think I missed out on this one, so I'm giving you a fresh set of code. Can you please try this? And then so basically this even if you want to refine your code, it can definitely take you a long way. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. I'll stop presenting here.
We have one question here.
Hey, thanks for that presentation. I just want to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
How have you found it? What's the best way to give some sample data to ChatGPT to ask a question on top of it? Because sometimes bots can make it confusing, and you just give a sample data. Hey, I want this field to make it this way. Have you found best options to do that?
That's a great question, actually, and I'm in the process of finding that out too. I'm pretty sure, if you leave your details, I can respond back to you, after this forum, or perhaps that could be a topic for me, for our next presentation. But I'm pretty sure there are ways to do that, because that's that's the natural next step for what kind of thing generative AI can do for you.
Thanks.
Any other question? Yes.
So mine is more of a question to you or the person as well. I work in a challenging organization who just ton of ChatGPT because it's public. We don't want sensitive information leaking out. Even code is sensitive. So we kind of turn towards Copilot. And I've been seeing some videos around Copilot trying to use Power Automate, build Power Apps, and chatbot within the Power Platform suite. Can it is there plans? I haven't used it yet. I've just seen videos. Is that Copilot? Can we ask these questions around DAX like we do in ChatGPT?
No, I haven't worked with Copilot yet, but as I said, like when I started working on this demo, to be honest, I found it quite interesting on how ChatGPT was interacting, and immediately the next thought was, how are other tools doing in this context, including Jackson's question on how ChatGPT 4 is doing. So yeah, I promise you that when I'm presenting next time, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get some answers for these.
Yeah, cool. Because that's the commercialized version, right? This is
exactly
free version that everybody can use, but GitHub Copilot is the commercialized version that enterprise obviously want to use.
Yeah, Copilot is actually pretty focused on coding. To be honest, it deals with SQL and Python and whatnot, and like if you think about how each of these organizations have been able to come up with these kind of tools, it is mainly because of algorithms, yes, but they also need a massive amount of data to be able to come up with almost accurate answers for the kind of questions you are asking. So if you look at Git, they are dealing with codes day in and day out, and millions of people definitely use GitHub products basically. So my assumption is they have vast amount of data, and they can definitely come up with algorithms that can do what ChatGPT is doing when it comes to especially coding in general, and that should include DAX as well. But I can get you some definitive answers for that for sure.
Cool. Thank you, Taran,
Thanks.
for presentation. The presentation. So the next speaker is Shifali. Here. Connect on that also. Like this much.
So, yeah. Can I? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes.
Try to.
Now, this is your one. That is- How's everything so far? So we had a different level of talks so far. One a little bit advanced, one a bit beginner. We'll see how this one goes. How many of you are looking for a job? Okay, 2, 3, 4. How many of you are already working in data analytics job in other companies? Okay, so those looking for jobs, go and find these guys after the session and have some chat. That's your opportunity to make some impression. Oh, yeah, we have some prizes as well. Oh yeah, after this you can also use those, like there are some stickers. We got some prizes as well. Right? You can do perhaps now while we are sitting this up. What are these? Surprise. Surprise. Okay. Surprise gift to whoever answers some question. Okay. So
What was the first topic? What was the first topic?
That's too easy. Okay. You can get these. What was the first topic today?
Fabric.
Sorry, fabric. Thanks.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Shifali's presentation and then we'll do.
Wireless.
Address.
Hi everyone, my name is Shafali. I'm a product owner at TVNZ, Television New Zealand. I am product owner for data platform over there. So today I will be presenting on a very important topic, but at the same time, it's kind of sometimes not adapted in the organization. It is Power BI governance. So we all know of the governance, but we sometimes are not able to apply governance completely when we use Power BI as a service. We are like heavy users of Power BI in the organization, but sometimes because of the teams structure, we intend to use Power BI completely different because of the users or the teams we are actually working inside. So you must have been across few of the scenarios like this, maybe in your organization or someone you have been working with. Maybe some kind of ad hoc request coming to you if you are working in traditional BI teams in which you might be being asked a number of times like, hey, can you give me access to this workspace? Or someone just creating random workspaces, and we call that as often workspaces when they leave the organization. So this kind of scenarios are quite common in organizations, small or you can say like bigger organizations, like people who are using Power BI is like more than 100 to 200 as well. So that's one of the case. And then when you go inside those workspaces which are not managed, you will see everyone is a member, or maybe you can say everyone can edit, or somebody just somehow wanted to play with the Power BI report for the first time. Could be the person, could be the executive, but they do not know how to use Power BI, and they will edit something and your query fails or some kind of XYZ issues you come across, and the person who built the report, they get to have a notification next day that, oh, the report is not working correctly. So because everyone has edit access, views access, and then some of the reasons, some of the cases you must have heard of, like where everyone is viewer and suddenly got a call from your finance team. Hey, raising a question like everyone can see the cost that shouldn't be shared with other teams.
Better?
Oh, okay. Okay, all good. Okay. So this is another case, and then report not refreshing is the most common case that at least I have seen in my organization. Every day in the morning, people sending me random emails. Hey, I have to share this report to my users, set of like executive group, and it's not refreshing. Can you please help? How again I can help them? Because if I haven't built the report, I do not have access to the data sets because they come with a problem like data sets that they are using. The source connection they are using is coming from their local machine. I cannot help them. So that's why we all need Power BI governance. And I'm just not going to take up a lot of your time because I just want to focus on a few of the governance steps because governance itself is a very wide scope. So I'll stick to 3 tips so that at least you will have some actionable tips that you can maybe talk to the teams who are mainly responsible for um, administrating the Power BI service, or even if there is no team, then I think there is one of the tip which says that you need a team, and you do not need a fancy team for the governance. But before I start, the purpose of governance is three. That I want to stick to three again. It's easier to digest and adapt as well. Resource optimization. We all know when we use or we work with heavy Power BI data sets, resource storage is one of the problem, and we need to optimize that. Apart from the resource optimization for data sources, we also have to optimize our service if we want to use n number of licenses. Maybe your organization is easily or they are readily they want to spend money on a number of licenses without getting governed. But there are some organizations who are very skeptical, like who should get Power BI Premium. You can see like the cost of the licenses they cannot afford for everyone, and that's why they selectively go for like, okay, if you are the Power BI champion, or okay, if you are near to Power BI champion, then only we are ready to give you or grant you access to maybe Power BI Pro. They are not still accepting Power BI PPU licenses because that's another cost, and it's enterprise season again. Definitely collaboration. This is kind of very self-explanatory. When a workspace is singly handled, so it's quite easy for a person, for the workspace admin, to grant access and to grant permissions, not just the access, like access as like, okay, you have access to the every content that is published in the workspace, but you also need right permissions. Like if you are viewer, okay, can you view the whole workspace content as a viewer, or do you have permissions to view only a set of data set, or report that is shared with you as a permissions? And then definitely standardization, again self-explanatory. When we try to build a enterprise reporting framework in an organization, how large or small it is, definitely it brings consistency in how the roles are defined. If you're an analyst sitting in a data engineering team or a traditional BI team, you may have same kind of report that is being built, or the same data set that you're accessing to, and the same data set is again rebuilt in a different report for a different purpose by another analyst, and still we all working in silos and we do not know how to reuse your models if standardization is not there. But if standardization is there, then definitely what we can do, we can work with the semantic layers of our Power BI, and we may try to give a level of Power BI model to other analysts, and then over that they try to build their semantic layer and they do their further analysis, and this leads to consistency. And consistency doesn't comes in this just by usage, it also comes by how your calculations are being done. Maybe finance team in your organization might be using a different logic which they know as a subject matter expert, but as a BI we might be using something else, and we are giving that logic built in another report to a commercial team, and that's where discrepancy happens. But this discrepancy is kind of acceptable to an extent if you still want to continue working in silos. But if these two reports are going to the same exec, they will definitely will be like, oh, your data integrity doesn't sounds fine to me. And then you will know what's the drill is. Your next day morning is not good, if or you are giving some every Monday you are trying to provide them with the same set of reports, and two reports are coming to the same exec, and they will lose confidence in your teams. So that's why we need standardization. So here here my first tip starts is we need a governance team. So by governance team, I'm not saying like, oh, we need a whole altogether department. No, we don't need that. We can start small. We can try to definitely start with a team of like traditional BI team, or I'll call it data engineering team, which is a latest terminology that is being used. So we have to pick set of roles over there. So these are the three roles that I have identified are the key roles to have a good start to have a Power BI governance team. So first one is Power BI admin role. We need a role which is responsible for managing your tenant settings. Yes, we have Power BI admin role in general in the service, but we need to allow a resource from your organization to learn how to set up the tenant settings, or to be across like what new is coming in form of Power BI updates, so that they can do the job and actually do the standardization in the tenant setting as well. We need a 365 Office 365 admin. Why we need this one? Because this is definitely a security role, and we do not get access even if we are a data engineering team or a BI team, or we call it like, oh, we own the Power BI service, we know better than the IT teams. But we need them because they are the super admins, and they can help us in defining how we want to use Power BI roles, how the security groups will be used. And then we need app support role. App support role is kind of an optional role, but why we need this is maybe in a larger organization where, for example, if I go realistic with my organization's setup, so we have data engineering team, and we say we own the Power BI service, we will manage it. I do not want anyone, or maybe myself, receiving n number of emails in the form of request. Hey, can you grant me access to Power BI team name, maybe like finance role? I want to be contributor in XYZ workspace. This is not, you can't scale in this way. At least in organization where at least you have 50 to 70 roles who want to access Power BI for at least you will say like 10 workspaces. So that's where the app support team or someone who manages application in your organization comes into play. So they help you becoming the first channel of granting them access in form of like what type of Power BI license they are asking for, and then secondly, what Power BI role they are requesting. So their role, maybe you may not define the role at team levels, but at least if you define, oh, they need a member role to this workspace, then you can definitely help them. But we can help them over there only if we take help of Office 365 admin, and we implement security groups to grant Power BI accesses. That's called role-based access controls. The second tip is goes to workspace. So many of you have been across workspace management. Workspace management itself is pretty vast. So that's why I just wanted to stick to few of the actionable tips in workspace. Okay, how we can do workspace management is you can try to categorize workspace in your organization. If your one team wants to manage it centrally and actually want to govern it, so the team that I explained to you earlier, they will be the person like who will be managing who should actually create workspace, because not everyone should create the workspaces. If everyone is creating the workspaces, then if you go back to the first slide of the scenarios, you will be ending up with the same situation. You will be having four people quitting the organization, and you will be having not four workspaces. They might have created maybe like more than 10, 12, or whatever number of workspaces till the time of their service in the organization, and they are called as orphan workspaces. And it's pretty hard, like whatever they have been creating in the form of workspaces, we can't administrate that until unless they grant access to someone uh, before they quit. So when I say corporate and team, so you can create a distinction between like a corporate level workspaces and a team level workspaces. By corporate level workspaces, what you can try to categorize is a standardized set of reports that you want to publish in an organization and to be shared. So these reports could be something that you may call in a simple term goal level reports. This is usually built by people who actually understand Power BI. And by understanding Power BI, I do not mean like they know Power BI, DAX, or everything. They are following best practices of how data model is being built for that Power BI. So if your organization has a best practice of just following for say star schema, they just want to stick to star schema, they don't want to introduce snowflake, so they can stick to star schema for both team and corporate. But corporate workspaces will ensure that the best practice of building a Power BI report is followed, not just for data modeling, but also like how that workspace is managed in terms of like, okay, if it's say they want to go slightly advanced, they might want to certify this Power BI report. They call it like, okay, this is the highest level of reporting metrics that I'm trying to provide and should be trusted. So that's where your corporate workspaces definition comes in. When we call team workspaces give a kind of breathing space to set of analysts who are maybe A, trying to adapt Power BI, B, they are not part of traditional BI teams or data engineering. They are not the one who are actually have access directly to your data warehouse. They are not doing data modeling like the way heavy data modeling that a BI team do, or developers do, or data engineer does. So this is a breathing space for them. But yes, we should tell them like how the best practices should be followed in terms of data modeling. But yes, they can put their operational reports in there, and they can publish, and they can choose this report to be shared maybe within their team, because they are doing some analysis within that they do not want to share with other teams. And this should be their space, but again governed, but with stricter guidelines. Then we have workspace content. Again, if I have already covered in this, workspace content will again like the data sets. If you want to share data set, where those shared data sets should live, you want to choose those set of data sets which are certified. If they are certified, and it should not be touched by other analysts, so that we are avoiding rework, and we are maintaining best practices of how that data set has been built. And also standard logics has been used for some of the calculations if you're providing, and the source connection that you are providing is also it's not certified, like they are the right sources and following the right ingestion of the integration pipeline. So these kind of things we cannot expect from analysts which are subject matter expert analysts. So this is where the data engineering comes in, and they step in and provide them with some common data sets. So do we want everyone to have access to that? So then you should choose your workspace wisely, and what permission they should have. If they are allowed to edit those data sets, then you can choose again using your security groups that you have defined earlier. And then data source connection. Workspace, if you try to define your workspaces over here, so every workspace you can try to sync with OneDrive, so that restrict themselves of not putting their data sets and get connected from their local machines. So we can ensure data source connection in this way, and it also leads to Power BI files versioning. Like if they are connecting their workspace to a OneDrive and keeping all their files, if they are connecting live and also with a CSV file, then they are maintaining the versioning of PBIX in that OneDrive. So that's where the workspace definition helps. Then we have the third tip is Power BI role. So I have again covered security groups. So security groups is one of the best practices that should help us in defining how we want to share our workspace content. So when we actually try and work with Office 365 admins, so they define security groups for us, which helps us in defining how the roles and permissions will be utilized when you are actually doing the Power BI, the workspace management. So by security groups, if I give you an example of like you are defining like I want finance team role who wants to be member to the workspace into one security group, and when they want to access that, you are giving them access using the security group instead of going to the UI of Power BI service and getting inside the workspace and using four roles that's available: member, and then you have viewer, and you have collaborator. So instead of doing that, you are giving them access, but that's not the right way, because that will be giving them access to the whole workspace, and you cannot control like, okay, to what extent, to what content inside the workspace they have access to. Then we have role service requests. So this is another tip when we actually want to make Power BI roles a reality in our organization, and not just because if you stick till here security groups, okay, you have created maybe 30 security groups which are actually associated with your um, 10 workspaces. After that, you are still going to have another problem, which is you will be having n number of requests. If you are having one Power BI admin, he or she will be bombarded with n number of requests. Hey, can you add me to this security? Can you add me to this role? And then he will be like, his head will be spinning like, okay, I have to add him to this security group, that security group, and he will be doing that individually, and it will be a nightmare for that person. So what we do in this case is we try, if your organization have um, ITSM tools, so why not use that for your this workspace management and making your life easier for governing the Power BI service. So this is where you actually put your roles. For example, if you are saying, okay, if you are from how that goes is, if I take you this to this journey, it's much easier to explain. So for example, so you have Power BI license requests. So first here you define you want a standard Power BI, if you want to have pro role, or if you want to have PPO license, that's where you define this. And then post that, if you have Power BI role defined, so you are defining like, okay, you're asking for Power BI finance member role. After this, your security group will be acting in here. Okay, because your security group is collaboration of these two. But for these two, you have to go back to again the first step, which is workspace. You have to first define what is your workspace going to be called. Is it going to be called a finance workspace? Is it going to be called a, maybe say a commercial or sales workspace? Once you have those definitions in, you will be able to define in your team in here, and then you decide, okay, you want to grant someone a member role, then the request comes in and he or she asks for this role. So this is how the role service request will help. And if I take you back to this one, so this app support role, if your organization is using application support team as a separate team and they have IDSM tool, this app support role will be helping you in managing your service requests. Then we have another one in Power BI roles. We have sharing practice. So with this, you are trying to set a standard of uh, governing how your content is actually being shared. Again, by using the permissions that we have. So if you are giving someone a member role, you don't have to keep on always remembering. Oh, okay, if he or she is a member, they are getting all the access. They are getting to build. They are getting to. If you're getting to build, then definitely you are getting the highest role. But if you are using Power BI Viewer, okay. So to what extent this person will be getting access to? So they are maybe just getting to view, not to edit. So you are creating a consistency in like how a workspace data set or a Power BI report should be managed. So this is an example of what I have created. So Power BI admin API, as was already explained in one of our presentation today, helps us in creating. This is actually a report. This is not any application. Yeah.
Can you maximize that? Very hard.
Sorry.
Zoom in.
So you have to use presentation actually.
Is it at
Sorry,
the top in the middle? Is that
I'll present again.
in the middle of the screen at the top?
Yeah.
there.
Is it,
Thank you.
okay? Yeah.
No, I can move.
So this is actually a Power BI report that I have published, and how I have built is that I have used Power BI admin API. So admin API is actually helping me in fetching few of the information that I have been talking about. So we have workspace. Workspace is information that's being captured from my tenant, and I'm able to fetch as much reports that are being published in a workspace, which is called XYZ in here. And the report, whatever is published in that workspace, will be populating in here. So because of the security reason, I have tried to hide things in here. But if you stick to these labels in there, so your report name will be associated with your workspace in here. And if you are using content endorsement, if you certify reports or data sets in your organization, so they will be getting populated in here with the help of API, fetching the same information for sensitivity labels that you are using. And then the last refresh is also one of the information that I thought is useful, which helps me identifying. So if you see these red labels shows me that my these reports haven't been refreshed. And if they haven't been refreshed, when was the last refresh time? So these kind of information is actually going to help to your Power BI governance team that you have, that you can maybe separate completely as a standard team if your organization is following some data governance group practices. If they are following advanced practices, then you can try to push this kind of team's role in there. But if there is none, we can still manage to have one team. I would suggest maybe teams which are actually more near to data warehouse practices. They should be the one who should manage Power BI services. And as I have already explained you, this if you try to inculcate three of these steps, this is definitely a starting point. And instead of going very fancy in the governance, this is a starting point for Power BI service that you can easily handle with just help of defining how the roles security groups are managed. And this is going to make your organization's life easier in managing the workspace and what lives in that workspace. And when I say workspace is associated with OneDrive, this is again the Power BI versioning that I was suggesting. So if for this is the best way of creating an audit trail of how many times a report has been uh, changed or the logic has been changed. And if someone do not approve of your current report, so you can always go back to your previous version if you are maintaining your PBIX in the version control and putting it with the associated OneDrive instead of publishing it in your desktop or in your machine. And also, if that user is not in that current role, they move teams, or if they quit organization, you are still having access to that Power BI file or Power BI report that they have constructed. And with ease, you can always retrieve that and give access to the new person in that role. Organization content visibility, definitely this is a kind of integrity, data integrity point that I would say. Mostly when we are sharing our Power BI reports with people like execs or below, or you can say C-level executives, so they always question the integrity, and they also want to stick to their decision making on the basis of reports that we are trying to share with them. But if the logic of those reports is it's changing every week or every month, or it's not having a consistency of what I am showing as a metrics in my report, who or maybe another team may be showing the same metrics but in a different name, or to the same exec. So that's where they can look at, like, okay, if you are using endorsed content, like if you are using sensitivity labels, certified content, then they can stick to corporate content that I explained you in. Like, if you are defining your workspace into corporate and team, then they can rely on the report that is published by set of user in the content in the corporate workspace. And if that the report that they are looking at, which is coming from team level workspace, they can think of, like, okay, I can't make my decisions on the basis of an operational report until unless they choose to do it themselves. So this is how you are building a standardization in decision making for them and making their life easy as an end user of the Power BI content that we are producing in form of enterprise level report or an operational report. Questions or any feedback?
Any question?
I've got a question for you, Shefali.
Seem to be too well explained to no more questions.
Or otherwise, you can refer to Reza's blog. He is a governance. I would say he's like writing endlessly on the Power BI governance.
That's a lot of
Prize for a question.
Oh yeah, if there's a question, we have some prizes.
Am I audible, guys? I have a question for
No,
Shefali.
still no. Okay.
Hmm.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much.